This video is all about road positioning in residential areas and the mistakes that you should avoid. So road positioning is one of those driving errors that, depending on its severity, can result in an immediate fail on the driving test. Even in real life, a lot of traffic accidents happen because of bad positioning of the car on the road. So it's very important to have a proper road positioning anytime and anywhere you drive, and residential areas are no exception. So the rule is, on single lane roads, you must stay as close as practical to the left side of the road. To put it in simple words, when driving on the roads with no line markings in residential areas, drive on the left side of the road. I'd like to call it traffic rule number 1 in Australia. There is no specific rule as to how far from the curb on the left side you need to drive. The rule is just to drive on the left side of the road. For example, on this road, this is a great position, left side of the road. Some common mistakes that people make in regards to road positioning in residential areas: driving too close to the curb. This is obviously dangerous, as you might hit the curb. Driving too close to the middle of the road, again, not a good position, as cars might come from the other side of the road and you will be too close to them. Driving right in the middle of the road. By doing this, you don't give enough room to the other cars from the opposite side of the road to drive past you. Driving on the right side of the road, which is the complete wrong side of the road in Australia. Of course, driving like this might cause a head-on accident with another car who is coming from the opposite side of the road. So yeah, you never want to do this when driving in Australia. It's a big no-no. But what if there are parked cars on the road? If you come across a car that's parked on the side of the road and you don't have enough room on the left side, go around the car to the middle of the road, and as soon as you pass the parked car, move back to the left side of the road again. The distance between you and the parked car should be at least a meter. And that's because sometimes what happens is that the drivers of the parked cars open the doors of their cars all of a sudden without checking the road. In case that happens, you don't want to hit them. You want to have safe distance from them. And if there are a few parked cars on the road with short distance from each other, you don't have to go to the middle of the road and come back to the left for every single car. Just look ahead, and as long as there are no cars coming from the opposite side of the road, keep it to the middle to avoid all of them, and then get back to the left again. If there are 2 cars parked on either sides of the road, you can go to the middle of the road to pass them. But as soon as you do so, get back to the left side of the road again. And if the road is narrow, make sure you slow down so you don't hit any of the cars. When you go around the cars, make sure you check your rear view and right mirrors, and you steer smoothly around the parked cars. So avoid extreme moves of the steering wheel like this. You don't have to turn the steering wheel too much when you go around the parked cars. Avoid extreme moves of the steering wheel. Just go smoothly and gradually around the parked cars, and smoothly and gradually get back to the left again. And if the road is too narrow and there are cars parked and there is not enough room for you on the left side, of course you can go to the wrong side of the road and keep going. But as soon as you pass the parked cars, you need to move back to the left side of the road again. And if you see there are some obstructions on the left side of the road, like this case here, there's a truck here and they're doing some work here, you can just go to the wrong side of the road, but as soon as you pass that situation, get back to the left and keep driving. So what happens if the road is narrow and cars are parked on the sides of the road, and you and another driver reaches that point at the same time, and there is room for only one car to pass in the middle? Who should go first? In such cases, there is no rule as to who should go first. It's just a matter of courtesy here. Any driver that is a nicer person stops or slows down to give way to the other car. You can be the nice one here and then slow down to give way to the other car. Just when doing that, make sure you don't go right behind the parked car, as it makes it harder for you to get out of that situation later. Also, don't go too close to the curb, as it makes other drivers behind you think that you are pulling over. Just slow down or stop a bit further back, and when the other car is gone, you can nicely and smoothly go around the parked car. And when you do this, most of the times the other drivers smile and wave their hands for you as a sign of thank you. And if you see the other driver slows down or stops for you to pass, look at them, make an eye contact with them and make sure that they are really stopping for you, and then you can just go. If you drive on a hilly road where you cannot see the other side of the road and there are parked cars on the side of the road, make sure to slow down and drive more towards the left side of the road, even if you drive a bit closer than 1 meter to the parked cars. On top of the hill, all drivers are meant to slow down and drive more towards the left side, but unfortunately not everyone does that. Some people drive too fast right in the middle of the road. So by driving more towards the left and a slower speed, you can avoid a potential accident in these kind of situations. Also ensure to avoid potholes by driving smoothly around them and make sure not to hit even the tree leaves and branches as they may damage your car paint. In residential areas, sometimes you might come across what's called a slope point. Slope point is where they put two islands on the opposite sides of the road to narrow an angle path of traffic. The purpose of the slope point is to make you slow down. So just slow down and drive between the islands. Once you pass the slope point, get back to the left side of the road again. What if you and another car get to the slope point at the exact same time? Usually any car that gets to the slope point first goes first. But if two cars get there at the exact same time, again it's a matter of courtesy. You be the nice person and wait for them to go first. And here there is a car parked on the side and another driver is coming from the other side of the road. Again, courtesy. Someone has to give way, but usually in these kind of situations, the car that has the obstruction on their side is in a better position to give way. So we give way to the other car by slowing down here. At the slow points, sometimes two cars can pass at the same time. And sometimes there is room for only one car to pass. Either way, anytime you approach a slow point, slow down so you can analyze the situation and navigate safely between the islands. And sometimes you come across a traffic situation like this. There's an island in the middle of the road, usually covered with trees and a keep left sign right at the beginning. In these kind of situations, you need to drive on the left side of the keep left sign where the arrow is pointing to, so this way. In such roads, this side is one way for cars going to this direction and the other side of the island is one way and it's for the opposite traffic. On a one-way road, drive in the middle of the road, unless there are parked cars on the side. If you see parked cars, drive to the right to avoid them, but once you pass them, get back to the middle of the road again. This one-way road goes until the end of the island. Once the island is over, the road becomes two-way again. Common driving test fails for road positioning, where there are no turns involved. Turns are a topic for another video. Not repositioning. So sometimes the road is narrow and there are parked cars on the side. The students avoid the parked cars by driving in the middle of the road. Great. But after passing the parked cars, they don't adjust their position by getting back to the left side of the road. And this usually happens either on a straight road or at the end of a T section, where the examiner asks them to turn right. Some T intersections have the center line, which makes it easier to know where you exactly need to position the car on the left side of the line here. Whereas some T intersections have no line markings, like the one at the end of this road. These are the types of T intersections that many students fail at. Since there is no line here, they don't pay enough attention, so they don't adjust their position and they end up in the middle of the road. So obviously you need to stay away from the parked cars, but as soon as you pass the parked cars, make sure you move back to the left side of the road again. Wide roads. Some roads are really wide and there are parked cars on their side, for example like this one here. So some students drive right in the middle of the road to avoid parked cars. Remember, if a road is so wide that you can manage to stay more towards the left and still maintain a safe distance with the parked cars, you must drive on the left rather than right in the middle of the road. Driving around bends. So if you've been driving for a while, or even if you've been in a car as a passenger, you may have noticed by now that not all roads are straight. Some roads bend to the left or right, and the rule is to stay on the left side of the road. Some students go too wide around the bends like here and end up in the middle or on the wrong side of the road. Remember to slow down around bends and still keep it to the left. Narrow roads. Is this road one-way or two-way? This is the question that I often ask too many of my students during driving lessons. Why? Because they drive right in the middle of the road. And many of them answer, yeah, one way. And when I ask them why, they say because it's too narrow. Remember, if a road is too narrow, it doesn't mean that it's one way. So this road is still two-way. It's just too narrow. So you need to still keep it to the left and be on the lookout for oncoming cars. Okay guys, I hope you liked this video. If you did, like it and subscribe for more. And remember, as always, that driving in Australia is easy if you know the rules.